March 24, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It was a rally, kind of a bounce, and a more shallow rally, sell-off, choppy sideways action, and another push-up. It was a low volume, low volatility day. There weren't that many setups. I did manage to take 3 trades. The first one was a loss, and then the next 2 were winners. They weren't the cleanest setups, and I'll get to them when I get there. The only economic data that came out today was around 645, which is about this region here. There's a flash manufacturing PMI and the flash services PMI. Go ahead and zoom in. In the pre-market, there was kind of this yellow up channel, sideways consolidation trading range, sell-off, and out in the regular trading hours it opens. It starts pushing up on this orange up channel. Things are very tight trading. There are a bunch of second entries by the technical count all over the charts today, but they weren't necessarily good trades just because the context wasn't right, signal bar wasn't there, or it just didn't. I guess it was just in an area of congestion or consolidation that it just didn't look safe. So it pushes up on this orange up channel, breaks, tests the high, makes a second leg up, then it kind of goes into this shallow red up channel going up. It's far from the EMA, it starts coming back down. I'm looking for a potential bounce here. You do get a bounce, but there's no setup. It doesn't break above. When prices continue moving, it kind of goes down on this green down channel, and I'm just waiting. Now, despite this green channel coming down, you have a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. You don't get a second entry long till here. This all makes kind of like a 4 matching highs. First entry long, pullback, second entry long. It comes back down to here. Now, this is where I take my first trade. It's a very bad setup, and I didn't take any consideration. I'm pressing against the highs of this green up channel, and I did have this green up channel drawn. So this is a very suspicious setup, yet I took it anyways because I was drawn in by the signal bar of this higher low, which did move 1 tick below and then closed at the high. The problem with this setup, besides the fact that it's running into the highs of this green down channel, this resistance is pretty confirmed. Support is pretty confirmed, so I already spanned the entire length. The other thing that was making this terrible was this higher low technically isn't even a higher low. It's actually a lower low. So it's a first entry long pullback, second entry long, lower low confirming this downtrend. So there was actually no real reason to take this trade. I was drawn in by the look of the signal bar, but the signal bar is kind of the last thing you need to consider. It's kind of the last gatekeeper for a trade. It shouldn't be the first thing. If like a good signal bar shows up, you shouldn't take a trade. It needs to be with context. And this was actually against the context. So I entered 1 tick above, as you can see, jumped in immediately, got filled, pushes up, never got the scalp, flushes down, and stops me out 1 tick below this guy. So that was the first loss. Now this is a legitimately like a good reason to lose because this is a no setup. So definitely shouldn't have taken this trade. Should have thought about it more carefully. I was drawn in, as I said, by this signal bar that I thought, okay, well, the signal bar is good, time to jump in. Even then, it kind of confirms the second entry long, but it's not really. It's just kind of ugly. The prices continue moving, bounces. So I don't have this yellow up channel established yet. I was trying all kinds of things to make it match, try to make it fit, even starting from down here and drawing it upwards. Prices move up. You have a first entry short. You have a second entry short, bad signal bar to go short on. Sideways consolidation, break of this pink up channel, tests the high. Again, it's just very congested. At this point, the ATR is dropping quite a bit, so it's kind of like things are slowing down for sure compared to the previous several trading days last week. The first entry long here, break of this orange down channel, test the low. So it's first entry, second entry. Second entry is a bad signal bar. There's no higher low because this was not a higher low, even though I marked it. That's the trade initially thought. Pushes up and actually creates this second entry long higher low. So you have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. You can reset the count here. It's a first entry pullback, potential second entry, and this is a higher low of this area. So I thought this was a possible trade. It confirms the visual first entry, pullback, second entry, and then you might have a higher low here. But it's also bouncing off the potential bottom of a range. But I didn't really have it fully vetted out, so I didn't really trust it. It was a good signal bar, but I learned from this signal bar being good that you can't really just trust it. There are 2 key entry points potentially here. It is a good signal bar and it is a confirmed higher low. So it's actually a safer trade than this one for sure. Pushes up, breaks out the high side. You have a green up channel break and test the high, but it was kind of this channel that you could debate being something like this. So whether you had like this or the previous, there is a break. It's trying a bunch of times to test the high. I'm not necessarily thinking of going short yet because the bias is definitely going long. It's first entry long pullback, second entry long bad signal bar. Not the best setup. Pushes down below, presses up. The first entry long, technically you have a second entry long here, but it's an inside bar. Break of this purple wants to test the high. So this is the first attempt. This could be a second attempt, but I just didn't like that it was inside, and I wanted ideally a touch and bounce off the EMA, which you don't get. It's this smaller consolidation trading range again. It's first entry. Technically, you have a second entry setting up, but now it's below the EMA, and I'm not too sure. I did have, during this discovery phase, something along the lines of this. So I'm thinking one touch, two touch. There's a failed breakout, a second attempt. So I'm thinking prices are coming back down. So I'm not necessarily going long here because it is first entry, second entry, but you're coming against the EMA. There's an overshoot here. So I'm thinking more likely the bias is coming down. But even with that feeling, there's no setup here. There's no clean bearish bar. They're just kind of neutral right here. Pushes up, pushes back down. It doesn't hit this bottom side, kind of consolidates. I draw this as first a support area. Then it comes back to here, and I actually drew this as a trading range now. So it is a new low here. It's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. But if you took it from down here, which is the technical count, it's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short, and then a higher low here. So it's the second trade. It is notably a more riskier trade because I am running into this potential triple test top of the range. So I saw this. I actually waited on this candle. It opened, pushes down, it pushes up and breaks above this triple test, but it didn't break above this guy yet. So as it was floating, I jumped in. Now, in hindsight, this wasn't a trade that actually was worth taking because there's more reasons for it to go short or come crashing back down or rejecting than it does to go long because there's clearly not enough data right now to justify a long trade. I took it. It did give me my scalp, and it pushes up. So this is actually a poor trade setup that worked out in my favor. So that's not the best reason or good idea to take because probably 9 times out of 10 this would have failed because its context just isn't that clean. So here, this is the second trade after the poor first trade. Kind of got me thinking that I'm getting a little sloppy for sure. I need to be very careful because any subsequent trades I take, especially on a very kind of slow meandering day, I could end up, inventing a setup. So it's a first entry long pullback, technically a second entry long, it's bad signal bar. Not even thinking of going long when I see this. See this, definitely not, especially after an overshoot here. Flushes down hard, bounces off here. So here I actually like the bounce, so I'm trusting the support more than I am the resistance. Resistance actually dragged it up thinking, okay, maybe it's actually closer to here. And it creates a new low. It's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. I actually thought this is a possible trade. There's a potential triple test right here. It's moving back into this developing range. It's a decent signal bar, and it closed below the EMA. So I thought this was a possible trade. Unfortunately, I didn't take it, though. Pushes down. This would have gotten you the scalp right away. Plus, between here and this potential bounce point, there's enough room for a quick scalp. Flushes down. Tries to make it back into this yellow up channel, but it fails. The new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but this is a bad signal bar. So the only thing you can hope for here is a lower high, ideally close to the EMA, but it never shows up. Bounces. And so this is actually the third trade that I took. And this is best I can describe as kind of like a hunch, a feeling that I had, which it's hard to justify taking a trade based off of that yet, especially due to my experience level. There's a new low here. This is what I was thinking. I saw a first entry short, pull back, saw a second entry short. Second entry short's confirmed, but it closed above the EMA. Granted, I had this drawn as a trend line, and then I later turned it into a channel. So you do have a confirmed rejection off this side. So it's just a first entry, second entry. I didn't like that just yet. I wanted a lower high. you get this very small 5 tick signal bar. And I really wanted this to tick above, this candle to tick above this doji, but it didn't. So when it actually closed here, but it closed below, my justification, I called it a top of the channel trade. It's confirming this break of this orange up channel has tested the high. It looked like it tried twice to make it up. It didn't. It's starting to flush back down. I believe there's more chances of it breaking below the EMA and coming back down to here than it does pushing back up. On top of that, this is a relatively small risk signal bar. So I actually jumped on it. So I entered, I actually waited for this to open. It does a bunch of things. It was early because the tick size or the ticks remaining was still pretty high, but I did enter right here and it flushes down and gives me my scalp. So this is I would call a gut reaction trade, reading what was happening. Because I was coupled with the break of this orange has already tested the high. It looks like it tried 2 more times and then it flushed down and there's a small signal bar. So I'm not really sure what to call it, so I call it a top of channel trade. Prices move down. As prices are moving down, I'm not so sure it's going to come back and test the high of this yellow up channel because it looks like it's more likely following this purple down channel at this point. This wasn't even a very aggressive rally, so it's very shallow. It can almost be seen as sideways price action, so I'm not holding out much hope that this necessarily has to test the high. Prices move down, and that creates this setup, but I didn't really mark it. I saw it as a new low. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short, localized high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long, you could actually say it's actually kind of like a higher low. I really wasn't sure. I didn't like that it was bouncing against this candle coming down. So I saw this as a potential resistance. Even though there's 2 key entry points saying to go long, I just didn't, I felt this was overpowering. In this case, it would have worked though. Hits the sideways consolidation. It's a new high, first entry long pullback. Technically, I have a second entry long here, but I saw it as a visual first entry pullback. Saw this leg as part of the same move. So it's a first entry pullback, second entry. Even though you could say first entry, second entry, third entry on the technical count, I also saw a triple test. And I saw that this hit and confirmed the second entry visual, second entry long visual, but it closed here. So I thought there might be a potential for a move back down. The thing I didn't like was there's not enough room between here and this low of where I established the range. If you place the trading range down here, okay, you could argue that there's more room, but I had it established up here because it actually looked like it touched pretty well. In this case, it would have worked, but I didn't know that at the time, so I called it an almost trade. Starts flushing down. This purple down channel has made one leg pull back, second leg, and now it's flushed down, tested the low. Again, this sets up another new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, new high, first entry long, pullback, creates a second entry long, and it's confirmed failed second entry short. It's just something I noticed. There's no real trade here because there's too many things that are making it ambiguous. The EMA is coming into play. I would be buying into high of this potential range. This setup, although it's a failed second entry short and second entry long, I didn't like that this also closed inside this range still. So just something I noticed, marked it, but didn't really put in my notes. Looks like if I did try to go long here, if I tried to enter up here, I would have been safe. But if I try to enter above this original signal bar, looks like it would have got the entry and likely gotten stopped out on this candle. So good thing I just kind of sat on my hands for that one. Hits this consolidation trading range, pushes up, break of the screen up channel, test the high. Looks like it made a second attempt up. And it was also a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback. I saw the second entry short. Technically, it didn't make a second entry short till after the break below here, which would have been on this guy. But when you see this in real time, you're thinking first entry short, push up, potential second entry short. This break of the screen has tested the high. So you're thinking it might come back down. After this candle, followed by this one, followed by this one, all could not break below this low. With the EMA creeping up now, I'm reluctant to go low because as the EMA gets closer and closer, it could act as a bounce point and you're losing distance to try to get the scalp. So in this case, if you did enter, you enter here and likely have gotten stopped out. If not on this, probably stopped out on this one if you kept your stop one tick above here. Prices move up. It just gets a little choppy, bounces. I'm not too excited about seeing stuff like this where it flashes up. It's floating way above the EMA. Just candles are side by side. Nothing really enticing here. Pushes up, hits this other consolidation area. It's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here. It's a bad signal bar. Don't want anything to do with that. You have the new high here, technically the highest, not ever, but just localized new high. It's first entry long pullback, second entry long, potential higher low, but you get a confirmed higher low here. So I saw as maybe it's a possible trade because it confirms a second entry long. It is bouncing off the EMA, and depending on how you drew your range, I drew it down here for me. But if you actually started up here and you kept it tighter, say starting the range here, you could argue you have a triple test here, higher low, confirming your second entry long. You have enough room from here up to this high for a 1 point scalp. So I thought it was a possible trade. Unfortunately, I didn't have it drawn like that. I had it something like this. So it never reached the bottom. So there's a possibility it could still come back down here. My range shows that this is kind of floating in the middle of the trading range that I've established. But if you kept it tighter, like right here, and you started range a little bit later, then you have a triple test confirmation. So you'd have another key entry point. I didn't do that, so unfortunately I didn't see it in time. But I was also not that keen because this is kind of late in the day to try to take a trade. Prices then continue moving up. EMA is holding pretty nicely now. Bounces. When this one bounced here, then I established this yellow up channel as an actual channel. I actually had this kind of a little bit tighter like this with a small overshoot. Later, when it didn't quite touch and it kept going up, I thought maybe the overshoot really wasn't an overshoot. Maybe it actually is here. It's a new high. It's a first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but this is inside bar, so I'd see it as first entry pullback. Your second entry would be right here. This is too late in the day because it's like 2 minutes before the close. So overall, it was definitely a slower trading day than the past several days last week. The setups weren't that many, and even the setups I did take, there's probably the three trades that I took, I lost on one. The other two weren't really that great either. The one that I lost on definitely should never have even occurred because there's a no setup. It was a There was actually really no reason to take this trade, and it's mismarked because although I called it higher low, it hasn't really. It did make a higher, well, it actually made a lower low and it actually closed higher. So that's really not a higher low. So even though I marked it as a higher low and that was my justification in real time to take the trade, there's no reason to have taken this trade. So hopefully that was helpful.